I'm Val from Quilty Pleasures, and today we're going to talk about some pressing matters. There are three areas in quilting where things can go really wrong, and the first is cutting your fabric, doing your measurements, prepping your fabric, that kind of stuff. Sewing your fabric, not getting an accurate 1/4 inch seam, being crooked, not paying attention, and pressing. Pressing is really important. People tend to forget about it, but it is really important. So we're going to talk about some tools and a few tricks that will help you get a better result with your pressing and will make your blocks a lot more accurate. First thing I want to show you is the wool pressing mat. This is amazing. It's about a 1/2 inch thick. This one is 13.5 inches square, but it comes in different sizes. We carry this one because it covers most block sizes, but you can get 17 by 13 and bigger, and one that'll even cover your whole ironing board if you want. And those can be special ordered at any time. So this is very, very heavy felted wool, and it does a great job of pressing because it kind of presses from both sides. It absorbs the heat, reflects it back, and gives you a really nice crisp seam with a lot less effort than on a regular ironing board. And it's very portable, so you can take it to classes, you can take it to retreats. It doesn't weigh anything. It's great. The other thing I'm going to show you today is the Aliso travel iron, and this is new, and it's just a little handheld iron, which also is great for taking to retreats, classes. It comes in purple, it comes in turquoise, I believe it comes in yellow. It's very cute, and it's very handy for smaller projects. It doesn't have the weight of your household iron. I do like a heavy iron for most of my pressing because then the iron's doing the work and I don't have to. But for smaller jobs, when I'm doing little fusible projects or when I'm away from home, the travel iron is fantastic. So I'm going to show you how the mat works with this iron. I've sewn 2 pieces of fabric together, just a normal 1/4 inch seam, and I want to press so that the seam allowance is under the darker of the 2 fabrics, which is the gray one. I'm going to take my iron and just run it over the seam that I've sewn. That relaxes the fibers. It makes the fabric more amenable to folding. And then I'm going to flip that fabric over and press my seam. I don't want to push into that seam. I just want to press it, and I want to make sure that I don't have any pleats or anything in there. You'll notice the nice thing about the wool mat is that the fabric does not scoot on it. It stays put. And when I've turned this piece over, my seam allowance has stayed right where I want it, underneath the dark fabric. So nice flat seam, no pleats, no wrinkles, no issues. Just to mention, I could use steam with this mat too, but I'm not going to because it's permeable and I don't want the steam to go through and wreck the cutting mat that's underneath it. If you do want to use steam, it works beautifully with the wool, but do make sure that it's on a surface that can take the heat and the moisture. So marble, corian, something like that's durable enough for it. Don't use it on wood, your fine dining room table, or your cutting mat, because that's just asking for trouble. The next thing I want to show is the hot hammer. And this is one of the products from Clover that's called Press Perfect. It was developed by Joan Hawley, who is Lazy Girl Designs, and she is amazing. The Lazy Girl thing really works for her because she comes up with brilliant ideas to make your life a lot easier with a lot less effort. So the hot hammer, this is the original product that came out. It's a short ruler, it's 6 inches I believe, and it's made out of some kind of felted material that doesn't get hot, so you can use it to press on, but you're not going to burn your fingers. It also comes in a 12-inch ruler size, which we don't have at the moment, so I can't show it to you, but it is on order and will be in one of these days. But what's great about this is you can press hems, or anytime you need to turn under an edge to a certain measurement. You've probably had to do this with bag straps or pockets or anything where you need a little hem. And your recipe, your pattern will say turn under an inch or turn under an inch and a half or whatever, and then you have to measure and pin and get it all lined up. And with this, it eliminates some of those steps. So I'll show you how this works and you'll be really impressed. So this is a close-up of the hot hammer, and I don't know if you can see what it's made out of, but it's fairly rigid. And it is kind of a felted material, but it has measurements on it every ½ inch, plus during the inch portion it's got 1/2 and 3/4 as well. So you can do your measuring right on the hammer. So we're going to pretend that I am making, I don't know, a pocket or something that needs a 2-inch turn under. And I'm just going to line the edge of my fabric up with the 2 inches, fold that over, and I don't put my measurement right exactly to the 2 inches because there is a bit of thickness to the ruler, and I just want to make sure that I don't make it too deep. And then you iron right on the ruler and take that out. There's your 2-inch hem. It's done. You don't have to measure as you go along. You don't have to pin. It's there. And the ruler is made out of, sort of like the mat, it doesn't scoot, so your fabric kind of sticks to it and it's not going to distort or shift while you're pressing. It's going to stay in place. It also has a curved corner, so if you're doing pockets or something like that, you can do your pressing on a curve to get a gentle curve. And it has this 2-inch cutout on this one corner. Often bags have to get a boxed bottom on the bag, they'll tell you to cut out the 2 inches. So this is just kind of a common measurement that we need for bag patterns, so Jones included that on the ruler as well. As I mentioned before, there is the 12-inch version, which is just a rectangle, so it gives you a little bit more length, not quite as wide as this one, but it's a very useful tool as well, and we can order it in. Well, it is on order, it just hasn't come in yet, so let us know if you do want that one. So that is the hot hammer. I like to do a lot of crazy quilting and strip piecing, that kind of foundation work. This would also work with paper piecing, which I'm allergic to. But when you have a foundation that you're sewing onto, you have a lot of pieces that you're sewing one after the other, and I know we should get up and press between every seam, but that's a lot of exercise and sometimes I'm just too lazy to do it. So this little tool, which is the roll and press, also from Clover from Press Perfect, is a great little finger pressing tool that you can use at your sewing machine and save yourself a few steps. Here's a sample of a strip piece that I've started. So I had my piece in the middle, I've sewn a strip on top of it. There's my stitching. I want to flip this over, and I would take it to the iron, but I'm not going to because I'm lazy. So I'm just going to use this little roller, the roll and press, and work my way along, and it finger presses. When we finger press, we're often, pushing, and it's hard on your hands. It hurts a lot after a while, and you get kind of ridges because you're not being consistent in the pressure that you apply. This guy, I don't know if you can see it, it's got a slight curve to it. So it really concentrates the pressure at the top of the curve. And you just roll it along. It's very comfortable in your hand. It fits really nicely. You can kind of steer with your index finger, and it keeps that seam nice and flat, so that you don't have to go to the ironing board each time. And then I could sew my next piece on, finger press it, the next one. So if you do any kind of paper piecing, or if you're just doing little things at the machine and you need to do your next seam, this will do it. You can press your seams over to the side. You can press your seams open. It works just as well either way. So this is a great little time saver and energy saver. Sometimes with some blocks you get a concentration of fabric at one point. It gets very thick. It gets very hard to press. So this little pinwheel is a perfect example of that. All of my points converge at one point, and it's very thick. So if I tried to press that over to one side, I'm going to end up with a big lump here. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that will help to ease that. And the first one is I'm going to flatten out my seams by pressing them in different directions. I've got a really bad seam ripper here. So I'm taking out the little bit of stitching in the seam allowance. And come into the store, if this doesn't make sense to you, come into the store anytime and I can show it to you. I'm just taking that little bit of stitching out. And now I'm going to look at my piece here, and I'm going to choose the half that I can see more of. So you can see on this side I have my whole seam allowance showing and the whole original block, whereas on this side it's partly covered up by the seam allowance. So I'm going to start with this side, the one that's got the everything showing. And I'm going to take my iron, and again I'm relaxing my fibers, flipping it over towards that side. Here, I'm in my own way here. And I'm just going to press on this half of the block. I'm not coming over here, I'm just going to the middle. Then I close it up again, and I'm going to flip it over. And now this half is the side that has the bigger piece showing. This one's been done. It's covered up by the seam allowance, so this is the side I want. I relax my seam, flip it, press just to the center seam like that. And when I flip this over, I get this magic little pinwheel star thing in my seam allowance, which distributes the bulk over a bigger area. Okay, makes it flatter. Then when I go to this side and press it, it's flatter. If you have a seam that's not so cooperative, if it's kind of giving you grief and staying thick, this is the whacker, and it's a mallet made out of, I don't know, nylon. And what you can do is give a shot of steam. This little iron gives a shot of steam too. Shot of steam to your piece, and then just hit it with the whacker, and it flattens those fibers even more, so that when you go to quilt, you're not going to run into a really thick part that's going to cause problems. It flattens it out really nicely. Also relieves all of your tensions and takes out your aggressions, and it keeps your family members away because they know better. And so it's a very handy tool to have. So those are just a few notions and some tips to help you with your pressing. Pressing does matter. It's very important, and just take your time and double check, and everything will be great, and you'll notice a big difference when you pay attention to pressing matters.